Welcome into the Sports Objective, the unofficial podcast of the Pirates. With us right now, we have Kyle from LaGrange Barber. How are you, sir?
What's going on, Dave? How are things going for you on this hurricane evening?
Well, I thought what we could do is hunker down, and why not have a show? I mean, I'm a broadcasting nerd, and we have Bubba Rosenbaum, another great friend. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, guys. How are y'all?
Great. We wanted to bring back from the Pac-12 our West Coast buddy, Mike Yam. Lots to talk about football-wise, and another great story that's developing over the weekend. How are you, man?
Doing great. And I'll say this, I feel like I got a bonus here without having to deal with any like ridiculous weather here in the Bay Area in San Francisco. So hopefully you guys are staying safe. We have been blessed with good weather, but at the same time, I haven't had an indoor meal at a restaurant since March. When I was in Vegas for the Pac-12 tournament, we got one day of games before it all shut down. So still dealing with a lot of restrictions here in the Bay Area. Guys.
Yeah, a lot of restrictions down east too. As you mentioned the weather, we're waiting as a hurricane approaches, so it'll probably be rocking pretty good in a little bit. But you can eat in restaurants here, 50% capacity. So most dining rooms are open. Yeah,
definitely jealous of that.
Yeah.
For sure. Mike, I know there was Kyle brought this to my attention, the story, Pac-12 players, I guess. Kyle, we were talking about over the weekend where there's a number of things they're asking for. I think it's 100 plus players. Or can you fill us in on the story and maybe the league's response?
Yeah. So it's been kind of a wild couple of days. I felt like if I was going to get a text from you guys to join you on the show, it would have been more about the football schedule. And then the weekend happened, and you get this huge letter and a list of demands that a group of Pac-12 football players get public player Tribune. About 400 players in total are on this group chat that has come up with this list of demands. And, some of the big picture items on it: one, more consistency and more control over the COVID-19 testing. And let me just preface this by saying a lot of the things that the players are asking for are not only legitimate, but either in the process of happening or going to happen, or very likely to happen, and they're reasonable. So I think with regard to COVID testing and more communication, that is possible. Now, the players are asking for the ability to control some of the tests and to figure out who they go to. I honestly, guys, don't think that is as realistic. I think the schools themselves are going to have contracts. If I'm not mistaken, the league has already signed a deal with a company that does testing. It's the same company that works with the NBA, and I believe is going to be working in the NFL. I think from a testing standpoint, they were okay. Frequency of testing is happening on those campuses and dictated by the schools. But an interesting development here, and I think we saw it in the Senate hearings a couple weeks back on NIL, and this is this idea of waivers being signed by players. And the players are sitting there going, you know what? I don't want any part of signing those players, and they should be waived and not enforceable. So I do think that is actually one of those realistic things. With regard to social justice, I think it's awesome the players are using their platforms, wanting to make change. I think if you rewind, and certainly I'm not old enough, but I've talked to enough people about this, like Herman Edwards, who's through the civil rights movement, saw his parents sort of take part in that, and told me some great stories too about what it was like for him as a college player. The reality is, when it comes to a lot of movements, it's usually a younger generation. So I think for college football players to see and want to use their platform to affect change not only shows the power of sport, but I think it also shows a certain level of maturity. As far as salary reductions that they're asking Larry Scott, they called them out by name, as well as administrators and coaches, I will say this: I think there is a market correction that is in place, and it's something that you're going to see over the next couple of years or so. I don't think there's going to be the dollars to fund a lot of these multi-million-dollar salaries that we're seeing in athletics. So I do think that is going to happen. But the rev split, and I'm sure you guys talked about it over the weekend when you were having your own conversations, just not realistic. Initially, I think it's misguided in this sense, guys. When I saw the 50-50 split and it said evenly distributed among sports, I thought it meant the 50% revenue split from college football probably college basketball goes into a pool and then is evenly distributed among all sports. Apparently, I misunderstood that, and it's a 50-50 split. Then it goes to football players, and each individual sport would gather the revenue from theirs and get that split. The problem is many college athletic programs outside of football and men's basketball actually cost the school money. So, it's not like you're going to get, a tennis player who's going to have to cut a check to their university to go and play. So a little unrealistic on that side, but I think a lot of the other stuff, a lot of the other actionable items are good. And, one other thing too, I was working with Rick Newhouse the other day on Sirius XM radio, and I brought this up to him, and I'm glad the players have circled this as an item that they want. And that's this idea of health insurance for 6 years, the 4 years plus 2 after they graduate. I think it's significant, guys, when you consider, I had a conversation this morning with Greg McElroy, who said when he left school, he had a lot of former teammates that weren't able to make the NFL in that first year, had to continue to work out, had to get another opportunity to make a roster. And that meant it was multiple years without health insurance. So I actually like the fact the players thinking about their own long-term health. So the insurance thing for me, I think is a great idea, and one that I hope they do get.
Yeah, Mike, my whole thing was that I agreed with some of it. A lot of the COVID-19 aspects I was fine with. To me, the 50-50 splits what caught my eye. As soon as I read that and I got to that point, I was like, well, you just blew your whole thing. So you had something that people could get behind and respect, and then you put nonsense in there, and that's all I see. I'm cynical by nature, and then when I see wanting you to split 50% of the league revenue, I'm like, you're out of your minds. And another thing, I think some of these players, is they keep, pushing for more and more in terms of money. And I know, with the being able to sell your likeness and benefit from perhaps doing some advertisement is coming down the road. And that's all fine. But as you keep pushing for more and more money from the schools and wanting the conference to split the revenue amongst the players, you better be careful wanting to be asked to treat it like an employee. Because as you get treated like an employee, your ass can get fired. Whereas right now you're on scholarship, and as long as you're out there trying and you might get put second team, third string, but if you're making several $1,000s a year and you ain't producing, your ass is going to the house.
Yeah, I think it's a really good distinction. It's actually something that Coach Newhouse brought up with me this morning when we were the show. There's that fine line between being an employee and then also being an amateur athlete. And that line does get blurred at times when we are talking about name, image, and likeness, when we're talking about some of the benefits that the players are asking for in this situation. I'll throw this your guys' way, though. On the NIL deal, to me, I'm for it. I think by nature, I'm kind of pro player. And I think if you're able to garner any sort of added income, it's no different than being on a campus and being academically inclined. Like if you're able to grab a little bit of extra cash. If let's say I was a really talented musician, for example, at a very artsy school, wasn't an athlete. Well, you know what? If someone is asking me to go and write the song track for a commercial and I'm going to get paid for it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I'd say the same thing about using your name, image, and likeness, whether it's having your YouTube channel, on social media, in your platform. To me, I have less of a problem with that, and I hope. Look, we're going in that direction. I just hope it comes quickly.
Yeah, and that money's coming from an outside party. It's not coming from the university. Yes. So I don't have a problem with that. My one concern with that is I do think it needs to be regulated is the word I'm looking for. And my concern would be, your starting quarterback, for example, he's probably going to get lots of opportunities. Well, what about those offensive linemen blocking for him? I mean, I would be concerned about perhaps some jealousy, resentment being developed amongst teammates.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think it's a possibility, but at the same time, I would say, is it as much of a different deal in terms of the jealousy, in terms of the attention that those guys get? Like your quarterback is your quarterback, right? Like they're going to get most of the interviews, they're going to be discussed. And I think when it comes to college football, we spend so much time talking about skill position players, and we're not talking about sort of the guys up front, the Penei Sewells of the world at Oregon, who are going to be, a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. We give him a lot of attention, but generally speaking, you're right. Like those guys up front don't get a ton of love.
Was there any truth I mean, you see so many things on Twitter, you don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
Was there any truth to I can't think of Washington State's head coach.
Rolovich.
Was there any truth to his reaction towards players about?
Yeah. It's interesting because the Dallas Morning News had the full transcript of the conversation between Cassidy Woods, the wide receiver, and Coach Rolovich. And guys, I'll be honest with you, man, I had this massive text thread over the weekend with some of my colleagues at Pac-12 Network talking about this story. And it's the immediate emotional reaction. Now, I talked to someone at the school. They told me that Woods was not dismissed from the team, still on the team. They couldn't talk about his choice to opt out because of COVID-19, because of HIPAA laws. Now, I feel comfortable saying that he opted out because it's in the Dallas Morning News and he gave the audio recording to the paper. So I don't think there's any issue there. But what I find fascinating is if you opt out for COVID-19 reasons, you shouldn't be allowed to be around your teammates in the weight room and around the games. Like, that's kind of the whole point of opting out. So right. I don't really have an issue with that. I think the wording in the transcript from Rolovich is, look, I don't think it's the blueprint for how coaches should respond, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't see anything that was overly inflammatory from Rolovich and how he discussed the situation. He did say, hey, things are going to be different if you are supporting We Are United. And I think the interpretation of that is we probably need more clarification on. Haven't heard anything from Washington State about this, but if he meant that they're going to be treated differently because they support We Are United in that movement, that's one thing. If you are going to say, hey, like, we know that there's change coming because of the We Are United movement and things are going to be handled differently, I think those are two different interpretations of it. And, we don't really know what Rolovich actually meant. But I think I'd be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I just didn't see anything. I mean, hell, he says, hey, on Zoom tomorrow, we're going to, I plan on addressing We Are United. How are your parents doing? All right, coach, I'll see you later. It ended respectfully. It didn't seem like it was that tense.
How do you think the Pac-12 is going to be able to meet enough of these demands to appease the players that are a part of We Are United to most of them
play? Yeah, I think it's a great question. Look, I think I don't think anyone goes into a negotiation saying, hey, I got a list of 50 things and I need all 50. Otherwise, I'm out the door. I don't think that's realistic. I do think the majority of their demands will be met. And I'll throw this your way. I talked to one player over the weekend after I saw the story who does absolutely have a chance to play on Sundays. And I said to him, do you feel like you're going to sit out if a certain number of the demands are not met? And he said, look, I totally support a lot of the players. I support the cause, especially the social activism aspect of it and the player safety portion of it. But he said, number one, I feel safe on my campus. I feel safer here than I do when I go to the grocery store and I'm out and about. I feel good about the testing protocol. I'm being tested once a week. I feel good about the hygiene aspect with hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes. And he does think that the social justice part is something that he absolutely believes in and wants to see changed. But he said, Mike, I grew up poor, and I have a chance to play in the NFL. And for me, that means I have to play. And I don't think personally I'm ready to sit out based off of this list of demands.
And at the end of the day, I mean, self-preservation is always going to rule out. And you mentioned another great point just in college football in a whole. And guys, I don't mean to try to hog the interview here, Dave Bubba. Just college football as a whole, you mentioned about how he feels safer on the campus than he does other places.
Yeah.
That's a great point and something I've tried to point out to people. These players are being tested. They're in a bubble as much as you can be compared to other students. I mean, as of August 10th, the University of North Carolina systems, East Carolina, UNC, and State, are reporting to campus. August 10th, dormitories are going to be open. And, I feel like the players will be the safest ones on the campus versus an average student.
Yeah. Look, I think if you're in the bubble, great. I think the problem is, and you've seen it in Major League Baseball, right? It's a pro league where there's a ton of money, more than the colleges have, and yet you're seeing these mini breakouts here and there. I think the safest approach, and we've seen it because the evidence is there, is what the NBA has done, and that's bubble their players, and have a real bubble. the more time that they can spend in the bubble, the better, because you're limiting exposure to other students on the campus. The problem is you can't have them in a bubble 24/7 like the NBA does. And I think that's where the concern comes. And we're seeing some breakouts with frat parties on different campuses. And then there's these questions about what happens when thousands of students from different parts of the country converge on a central location. The 3 or 4 of us, we all get it, right? Like, we're all college kids back in the day, 18, 19 years old. Like, not for nothing, like, I'm gonna go out and have a good time. And now I didn't live and go to school in a COVID era, so I don't know how I would necessarily respond to the things that are happening in society. But I do know that maybe the 18, 19-year-olds maybe don't always make the best decisions personally, and they do have this fearless mentality that they can't get hurt, they can't get sick. And while that is generally accurate with COVID, there are obviously some people that have passed away that are in that age range, and they're not necessarily in the high-risk group, but that doesn't mean they're still not at risk, and certainly can't spread it to their family, which is one of the points that some of the players from the Pac-12 were saying, like, hey, like, I don't want to not be able to hug my mom and dad or my grandmother. Like, those are real life questions that a lot of these kids have right now.
Yeah, and I got one word for you: girls. That would be my biggest concern if I was a coach.
Yeah. I mean, heading to those parties. I mean, look, we all want to look. Take it from me. I've been sheltering in place for the most part. I go to the grocery store, do that. I've been doing that for a few months now, since March, and I'm going batty, man. Like, I miss the social part of my life that hasn't really been in place for 4 months and change now.
Yeah, well, just like Dave, I go to work every day. 50 people. In my situation, I'm around 50 people in a closed-in area wearing a mask, working. So you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, got to pay bills. I hear you.
Hey, Mike, I had a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
Pre-show, I asked you. One of the things I always hear about is obviously those of us that are on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast, getting the exposure, which those of us want more exposure. We love you, obviously, and you're a friend of ours. The very fact that we could have more games for the Pac-12 on, and I know they always say the East Coast bias, but I think one of the things is just a time zone thing where we want to see more of those games. Some of the games, obviously, we would see, like, after we see a Pirate victory at Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. I know Kyle and Bubba and I have a group text where we're texting about different scores. So it's kind of cool to have the games afterwards, but then there's things like the high, different things that can be affected by the late games.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I think it's a problem that I know I've been on your show in the past, and we've talked about this, and certainly my friends that work at ESPN, that from the days when I was there, we have those conversations about late night viewing. Look, I think there's an opportunity for this season games to be maybe a little bit earlier because there is less inventory across the board in college football for everyone. But I'd also argue, I don't know if it happens because there is less inventory, like having that time slot could still be really valuable for the conference. And for as much as we'd like more exposure on the West Coast for the games, being the only game in town late at night certainly is appealing where you're not facing the different competition. I also think from a practical standpoint, I haven't heard anyone necessarily say it's going to happen this way, but because of the COVID era, I actually see a world in which, and it's not ideal by any stretch, but I do see scenarios in my mind where a team doesn't head out the days before a game or the day before a game. Like I do see a world where it is a fly-in day of or bus day of and have to go and play your game. Now, obviously not ideal, but if that's going to happen, you can't do that with an early kickoff, right? Like that's going to be something later in the day. So I don't know enough about it. I'm sort of just speculating here, but if the goal is to limit exposure and limit travel as much as possible and staying in hotels and the whole deal, maybe that is a viable option for some schools.
Mike, before we transition and talk about scheduling, what you were anticipating us talking about prior to the news over the weekend, one of our viewers, Tommy Nathan, chimes in. And Tommy, we've already touched on this a little bit, but Mike, can you very quickly kind of outline the player-specific demands from We Are United?
Sure. And once again, you can find them if you just Google even We Are United, it'll pop up under the Players Tribune. But really the headliners to me are more control and more transparency with the testing for COVID, which I think is going to happen for him. No waivers that waive liability basically from the schools. They don't want to deal with that and void the ones that have been signed. By the way, the player that I did speak to that I referenced earlier on the show said he was never asked to sign a waiver. So that's at least on one campus in the Pac-12. And I actually haven't heard that happening in the league. So social justice and creating some channels to help advocate for people in need. There was also this idea of using and funneling some of that rev share, by the way. It's a 50-50 rev share is what the players were asking for. That doesn't seem realistic, but they did say taking 2% of that and channeling it and funneling it to players that are in real need, financial need, which I thought was a really cool idea. Health insurance for 6 years, and for leadership like Larry Scott, administrators and coaches to take a voluntary salary reduction in what they described as excessive pay.
Yeah, I have a problem with that one, and I do think it will take care of itself. But it's a free market. I mean, is it any of their business when somebody's getting paid?
Yeah. Well, look, I do. I'll say this. Number one, you're right. I don't blame anyone for getting the salary that they're getting. You just kind of point the finger at the bosses, right? I mean, it's whatever the market says that you should get, you should get. Now, do I think in the next couple contract cycles for commissioners, administrators, ADs, and coaches, are we still talking about those sizable contracts? I would venture a guess that's not going to be the case. So I would argue that it's not as significant as the players necessarily think moving forward. It has been significant, and they've referenced the fact that the majority of college football players in the conference and really nationally is predominantly made up of African-American males. And if you look across the country, 13 African-American coaches in FBS play, 5 in the Pac-12. To me, there is sort of this progressive stance where there are opportunities for Black head coaches, and you're seeing it more on the West Coast, but you're not seeing it nationally. So I think the players are sitting there saying, you know what, like, it's mostly Black players that are playing. We don't necessarily have as many Black coaches, and we're seeing a lot of white males in leadership roles that are making millions of dollars. So I think the players, and they've referenced this, and you've seen some of the tweets about this from different players, I think that's where the issue lies for them with regard to excessive pay for sort of the top brass there.
But
Mike, winding things down, let's talk about the scheduling. I know back about
Sure.
three and a half weeks ago, it was made known by the Pac-12 that they were going to be playing conference only, and then approximately 2 weeks later, they had anticipated starting on September 19th, and then here in the last few days, now it's September 26th, and that announcement was made right there around the same time with maybe, was it the SEC or ACC announcements?
SEC.
Yeah. SEC announced the 10-game conference schedule, just like the Pac-12. But you're right. It now week 1 is what was week 3 in the conference. There's flexibility in the schedule, especially in those first 2 weeks. You're looking at a universal bye week in week 12 for the entire conference so that they can make up some games. And eyeballing it, I think it was weeks 4 through 6, everyone's normal bye fell in that window. So there is some flexibility in the schedule. There's flexibility in moving that championship game as well. So to me, I think overall there's some big wins. And there's some quirkiness in the schedule, right? Like we get some rivalries early on. SC and UCLA, for example, playing in week 1. Arizona and Arizona State in week 1. I think it was week 4 or 5, Stanford and Cal. So, to see some of these rivalry matchups at the beginning of the season or the middle of the season as opposed to the end is going to be a little bit different. But I think I speak for all of us when I say I don't care when they play these damn rivalry games. If we're getting games, we'll just sign up for that.
And Mike, go ahead, Bubba.
Just very quickly, Kyle, as far as the timing of the games, I noticed that and what you're saying about some of those rivalry matchups, but then also talk about some of the matchups that would not have been taking place. And what was it? Was it Oregon and Utah?
Oregon and Utah, yeah.
Yeah, Oregon and Utah. That's a huge one.
Enormous game. And I think what's also interesting, because there were reports, Bubba, weeks back that Oregon was going to have to go on the road to play Utah. And I immediately thought to myself, well, then that means they're going to get 6 road games and 4 home games. But I think what I love about what the conference has done across the board, they've rectified and corrected that 9-game conference schedule. You're going to have some, it's not even 5 and 4, right? Like you're dealing with an odd number there. Now at 10 games, everyone plays 5 home games. Everyone plays 5 road games. And while there probably won't be many fans there, fan attendance will be limited, and that might neutralize some of that home field advantage. Just the whole idea of traveling and not having to do those things. I like the fact that there's equity across the board.
Not your problem. You're not a Pac-12 school, but BYU was affected drastically.
Oh, yeah.
By the Pac-12 dropping non-conference games. Are you hearing anything, being you're out that way, about BYU, what they're doing?
Haven't heard much, and I know the Big 12, because we're doing this live, Big 12 hasn't officially announced what they're doing. There's been some scenarios, at least that I've seen online, unless I've missed something, but I think BYU might actually get a couple of those games. I think it was 3 opponents from the Pac-12 that were going to play BYU, and obviously the headliner is Utah because of that rivalry between those 2 teams. And I've had a lot of fans on social media, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, say, hey, like, it's in state. You can actually drive. It's drivable. Like, why can't we play this game? And I circle back to why all the Power 5 conferences, for the most part, ACC removed, because they're willing to play a non-conference game, and potentially even now the Big 12. But the Big 10, SEC, and Pac-12 are saying league games only. And I think a lot of it has to do, and I'll speak just from the Pac-12 perspective, they can control the protocol and the testing. So if you have a kid, for example, that's getting tested once or twice a week, and you have the resources to do that, that's all well and good. You should probably play teams that have the same resources and are testing like you, because, and I'll use another example, because I read it and I know that's what they were doing. Portland State was only going to test their players who were symptomatic. And to me, that would scare me if I'm a school that's playing them. And if they're only testing symptomatic kids, well, what about all the asymptomatic kids? And I don't know if I want to play. Like, our guys are good. Like, we're testing them regularly. You're not. Clearly, you're not. And I don't think it would jive well there. So I think that's why you're seeing Power 5 leagues saying, you know what, we're only going to play the league schedule.
And Mike, before we let you go, we did have another question from Tommy Nason. He said, what do you think the chances of the Power 5 splitting from the NCAA?
Tommy, great question. And I think I couldn't tell you the answer to that, but what I can tell you is I've talked to enough ADs and enough people around the game that says this is shedding a light on the lack of leadership at the top. There's already autonomy at the Power 5 level, but I think when you're talking about teams in FCS or G5 squads that are now trying to figure this thing out because they're losing that paycheck that comes with traveling to play against the Power 5 opponent, and now they're worried about how they're going to finance their athletic departments. And really seeing a division across the board among Power 5 conferences, right? Like, it seemed like it was all in unison, but to be honest with you, like, they're all acting kind of like a solo deal, and I understand that. So I think there's a real void at the top and a singular voice. I don't know if it breaks away necessarily from the NCAA, but I do think that COVID has now shed a light on that lack of leadership, how there needs to be sort of a football czar. And I think across the board, there's a lot of decisions that still need to be made. Like, any other offseason, guys, I'd be on your show talking about NIL right now. I mean, that would be a major topic, and that's been on the back burner. I think an underrated topic is the fact that New Mexico and California, I think, are still the only 2 states. I think Texas might be in the mix, and the decision should come pretty soon. But high school sports in California has been pushed back to December or January. We got a signing day that starts on December 18th. So what you're telling me is you're going to have a senior in high school who hasn't played a down of a senior season that's going to commit to a program on December 18th. That seems weird to me. And what seems even more weird is, how do you assess? Like, I'm still, guys, waiting for my growth spurt, but I know that there are juniors and seniors in high school that haven't hit theirs, that are going to hit theirs, that haven't been properly evaluated, and you're not going to be able to because there's no games. So I think there's questions around recruiting that needs to be addressed because of COVID. NIL needs to still sort of be addressed here over the next couple of weeks and months. And then obviously let's get a season going and how to handle that. So to Tommy's point on that question, I don't know if there's a breakaway from the NCAA, but I do think someone needs to sort of kind of reel everything in and make the call on a lot of the stuff.
Mike, thanks so much for your time.
Sure.
Enjoyed the visit. Hopefully we can talk football very soon. How can people follow your work, by the way?
For sure. On Twitter at Mike_Yam. It's the same handle on Instagram, and it's pretty much where I put a lot of the content. And then obviously on Facebook, I got that page. So Mike_Yam on Twitter and Instagram, and then just my name on Facebook as well.
All right. Enjoyed it and look forward to whenever the season starts.
Awesome.
Maybe the middle of September, it looks like.
For
All right,
sure,
have a
for
good
sure.
one, man.
Yeah, as well.
Have
Keep
a
the
good
fingers
night.
crossed on that. You too, guys. Stay safe too with that weather coming your way.
Stay safe. Absolutely.
Thanks,
Take care. All right. Good night. And of course, Mike Yam there with Pac-12 Network. Thanks, Mike, again on short notice. And guys, that was obviously a tough story over the weekend, but we had a tough story.
Not to cut you off, Dave, it sounds like maybe they're going to get somewhere with it in terms of the Pac-12 and the united front. It sounds like maybe that there's some room for some reasonable negotiations there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Bubba, we got some tough news today in Pirate Nation, and we have one of the teammates on because of that. I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, I'll be switching back to my phone in a moment. As you see, I'm frozen, but no, unfortunately, I found out early this morning that on Sunday, Tootie Robbins, East Carolina, not Hall of Famer, but All-American, hopefully future Hall of Famer, passed away at the age of 62. He played 12 years in the league, 10 with the Cardinals and 2 with the Green Bay Packers. And right now to talk about it, the type of man that Tudy was, welcome into the program there on the bottom left corner of your screen, his former teammate, Norman Quick.
Hey, Norman.
Norman, thanks for being with us.
He's on mute, actually, right?
You got me now?
Yeah, there we go. Hey, Norman.
How you doing?
Good. Obviously, we'd love to have you on the show. We loved to have you last year, and I know it's tough to have you on tonight with the news we heard. But I know that I think you guys overlapped as far as you and Tudy, right, for a year.
Yeah, my true freshman year was my first year with him. Then I got redshirt because I hurt my knee my freshman year, and I was able to play with him my redshirt freshman year.
What kind of player was he first? Let's honor him for a player first. What kind of player was he?
Oh, he was unbelievable athlete to be his size. I mean, he had great feet, a great leader. He was everything, and somebody I really looked up to while I was playing. And actually, the first game I ever started my red shirt freshman year, they put me in a room with him. I roomed with him, and a funny story was that that night before the game, we were watching TV, and the movie Halloween was on, and he was the whole time he'd be under the covers and he'd stick his head out. But he was a great person, man. I looked up to him, and he, like I said, he was an unbelievable athlete for his size. I mean, just unbelievable.
And if I saw Michael Myers, I'd have the sheets over too. It's a scary dude.
Yeah,
probably my favorite as far as horror movies are concerned. My favorite character, but with Tudy, as far as you're saying, a great dude. I know that time period with there with Coach. So I take it he was recruited with Coach Dye and the staff.
he was with Coach Dye. I was recruited with Coach Emery, and we kind of met. And I think he had left the team, and Coach Emery might have got him back out. I think that's how the story went.
What kind of guy? Go ahead, Bubba.
I apologize, Kyle, but just piggybacking off what Norman was saying very quickly before we move on, and as far as his recruitment to East Carolina, definitely took place in the Pat Dye era, and I was refreshing myself with that this afternoon. An article from back in 2008 that Ron Cherubini with Bonesville wrote with the Pirate Time Machine, and the situation was he had come in, I want to say it was in 78, and then sometime I guess during 79 had a falling out with the offensive line coach, came back at him verbally, and packed his bags and went home. And then when Coach Emery came in, Coach Emery reached out to him, and he made the decision to come back.
Yeah, it was a good decision because he was a good player. And I didn't see the part of, the bad part of, said he talked back to the coach, maybe something. But as long as I was there, he was a leader and a great player.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. What kind of guy was Tudy? You mentioned him being a leader. So was he one of the team leaders, and what was he like in the locker room?
Oh, he was a great character guy in the locker room. He's always laughing and smiling and trying to pick us up when things were, going down, when things were bad. But he was an outstanding person.
And with Tudy, I know with that's one thing. You and Norman, Tudy, there's so many great players. One of the reasons we always talk about the podcast, I guess, is kind of an unofficial 50 for 50 honoring him, 50 Pirates in 50 days. But as far as I know, what was he like in the locker room as a teammate? I know that he's obviously an All-American. You're talking about a leader, so he had to be a great teammate.
Yes, he was an excellent teammate. All those guys who kind of got along together in the meeting rooms, in the locker room, all the offensive linemen, Oscar Tyson, Tony Hensley, all those were our guys that we looked up to, along with Tudy. And but it was an honor just to, I used to watch him on Sunday and say, hey, I used to play with that guy right there. And he's a special young man.
Do you know where the name Tudy came from? I'm assuming that's a nickname.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Like I said, I only played 2 years, really 1 year with him, because my first year I got redshirted, but really only played 1 year with him. But he was somebody I really looked up to and helped me with my career getting started. Because, when you first go in as a freshman, it's a shock now, especially when we were practicing 4 times a day, 3 times a day. And, you need those type guys that help you along.
Besides being scared of Michael Myers, what else was he like off the field? Sound like was he a jokester? And I don't know how close you were with him off the field. Do you know like where he liked to hang out, etc., downtown?
I imagine the elbow room, because all of us back then that was our place, was the elbow room. So, but yeah, he was just a fun-loving guy, man. He was, I've never really seen him ill or really a bad temper. Maybe he learned his lesson. I know he said he had a problem with the previous staff, but when I was there, he was not that way at all.
Hey, everybody has a bad day.
Oh yeah.
And Kyle, you talk about his name. I'm not sure of the origin of the nickname Tudy. It seems like I've heard that at some point, but I don't recall. But his given name was James Elbert, and then of course he went by Tootie Robbins.
The only Tudy I know was on the Facts of Life, so I'll get him. But no. But now I know.
He was originally out of Windsor, North Carolina, and I think it says Bertie High School.
Yeah, Bertie, that's right. That's same high school that Paul Harvey went to. I think Paul probably knows him pretty good too.
Yeah, well, Bertie has always had a great football tradition. I think they've been down. They're trying to build that back up. But Bertie is always, or at least back when Kyle and we were growing up, he's a little bit behind me. But during that time, I don't know if you remember, Kyle, how good Bertie was in football.
Oh, yeah. You always had the Bertie Williamson game used to always be a big deal. And just, that whole area used to have really good high school football. Clemson used to have good high school football, and it ain't what it used to be. It doesn't seem.
No, it doesn't. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was telling you, go ahead.
Gotcha. So something else back in 2013. I don't know if you guys recall it. Via social media and such, in East Carolina, the Pirate Nation voted on all-time offensive and defensive teams, and Tootie Robbins was voted to the all-time offensive first team unit. He was one of 5 offensive linemen selected, along with Terry Long, Brian Remp, Tom Scott, and also Guy Wimper, 4 very recognizable names. But Tudy, he was an All-American in 1981, and then went on and got drafted in the 4th round that year by the St. Louis Cardinals before they moved to Phoenix.
And you said 12 years in the league. Is that right? I mean, do we know where that ranks among Pirates and longevity in the NFL? I mean, that might be it.
Yeah. Definitely right up there with Ernest Bonner and some of those.
I was going to say Ernest Bunner is way up there, right, Norman? I mean, he had well over a decade. I would say probably 12, 13. Let's see, 83. He was in there somewhere in the middle 90s, I think is right.
Well, he had at least 5 years with the Browns before he went to the Redskins.
Yeah, he had to be over. I'm pretty sure it had to be over a decade. But of course, the '91 Redskins with the Super Bowl in '92, he was on that. But certainly he had a number. I have to look that up, or maybe Bubba, you can. But with Tudy, that's fantastic. In fact, Norman, one of the things we want to do is to with Coach Mike Houston is create more guys like Tudy that recruit those guys that can make the league.
Norman, did you keep up with Tudy at all after his NFL days? Have you talked to him in recent years?
You're on mute, by the way, Norman, if you can hear me.
I'm sorry, I did it again.
That's all right.
Yeah, not really. I hadn't talked to him recently, and it's been a while, but I did keep up with him with his career, in the NFL with the Cardinals, and he did, as coming through watching, and I also played with Terry Long. He was a great one, but to me, I think Tudy was probably the best lineman that played at East Carolina. I know there's been some good ones, but to me, I mean, just his playing in the league that long, starting for the Cardinals, being such a big guy that could move like he could move, and was athletic. And the thing about Tudy, now you take him down to the gym down there, he could school about anybody at East Carolina. He could play basketball too. He was a very good athlete.
And that's one of the things you find, especially when we talk about Bert T. A lot of the guys that I know they're 3A, I think, but as far as a lot of the rural high schools, every guy pretty much has to play several sports, because if not, you won't be able to have many programs in the athletic department if you don't have guys playing 2, 3, 4 sports. I guess 3.
Nothing else to do. I mean, even in 2020, in Berkeley, there ain't nothing else to do. What are you gonna do besides play football and basketball?
That's right.
Very good point. I mean, that's the social outing. I know we're dealing with COVID-19, but pre-COVID, and I guess even some, smaller groups, you can still play basketball in some of the sports. That's about the only thing we have right now.
You're right. Not a whole lot. It's tough when there's not a lot of sports on. But they're coming back. Hopefully, I hope we have a college football season. I really do.
You're preaching to the choir, man. I think they're gonna have to put me in a straitjacket if we don't have college football. At least I can watch it on TV, even if I can't be at the game.
Yes.
Hey, Norman, that's year round for Kyle with a straitjacket, not just football.
Yeah.
Might be true.
Hey, Norman,
No,
the Pirates started practicing last Friday, and we want to get to that and discuss that some in a moment, because obviously a guy that you coached, not your position group, but you're on that staff there at Carolina Forest and down in the Myrtle Beach area. Mason Garcia, a very talented quarterback who is wearing the purple and gold now, and so we'll touch on that in a moment. But just how are things down there in South Carolina? Because obviously Myrtle Beach is one of the hot spots.
Yeah, actually, just a couple months ago, I came back to Dillon to coach. Finished my career at Dillon. My mama's been, she's 89 years old, so I had to take care of her. So I came back to Dillon. But South Carolina is Myrtle Beach's numbers have shot up. I think they're coming down a little bit now, so far as South Carolina, and hopefully we'll get to play our high school season also. Right now, we're supposed to start August 17th. That could change. I don't know. Hopefully it will happen, because I'm looking forward to getting back out there coaching again and get on Friday night and get up Saturday morning, right up to East Carolina and watch the game. So
now you say you're in Dillon now. Do people still go to Dillon to get married all the time like they used to?
Not like they used to. That's I grew up at Scotland High School, Scotland County in Laurinburg, and that's what we always heard. Everybody's going to Dillon to get married, going to the chapel. But it's not like it used to be. No.
Yeah.
And Kyle, here's an interesting fact. My grandparents, my mom's parents, went to Dillon to get married. So
yeah, well, back in the day, a lot of people from North Carolina, I think the age to get married in South Carolina was like 11 or something.
Yeah, it was something crazy. You had to have your parents approve.
Yeah. People used to cross the line from North Carolina and go down to South Carolina to Dillon and get married.
Yeah.
That's where it all started from.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't be in existence now if it wasn't for
There you
for them
go.
going to Dillon. So
That's how Richard met his wife. They got married in Dillon, South Carolina, crossed the line, and got married.
so I'm glad they went to Dillon. Norman, as far as let's talk Mason Garcia, I'm really impressed. It's great. I know that Coach Houston said that he is really happy with the quarterback situation because what they're going to try to do, they're going to try to redshirt Mason to obviously give him more time. I would say academically and athletically, but that gives you a nice 6 years or more. You don't have to worry about the quarterback position, and then the quarterback position now, where sometimes it's been thin, there's a lot of competition in that room. Maybe there's too many quarterbacks of late, but the world we live in right now, I don't think you can have enough of any position.
Oh yeah, Mason's going in a good time, and he's getting get behind, learn from Holton, which is a great quarterback, and be able to not be rushed because there's a learning curve, especially for a quarterback going in to learn the offense, learn coverages and different things like that. And physically, he can handle it. Because, he is a stud physically. But the learning curve is what he's got to get as far as, college offense is a lot more complicated and coverages and defenses they face are a lot more complicated. So he's at that part will help him be able to sit behind Holton.
It's going to be great. What can you tell us about? We've seen some highlights, but you've actually had your eyes there live. What's he looks like? I know he's a young kid and obviously coming into college in Division I, but he looks like he's the real deal. What can you tell us about Mason?
Thing about Mason is, he's got the it as far as he works harder than anybody. He's going. He played basketball and we told him on basketball days, on games. I said, go light in the weight room. You don't have to lift as hard because you got a game. He said, I'm going to lift hard. And basketball coach, I remember the basketball coach came on there and he was over there pumping iron. They had a game. He said he's going to be real good tonight and ended up scoring 29 points and getting 16 rebounds the same night. He's a competitor. He is a competitor. He loves the game and he's going to compete. And he's just a physical specimen of that. But he's a great kid, man. He's very humble and everything, but he is a great kid. Y'all will enjoy him a lot, I'm telling you.
Yeah, there's been some talk about academics. I know that early on in his career that he got behind. We had his quarterback coach on with us last year talking about that, but it looks like when he became an upperclassman, he really buckled down. He was more mature in the classroom and started to work really hard. And I know there's been some issues. Guys, I know that Coach Houston talked about that with academics, right, as far as eligibility is concerned. Do you know anything about that, Norman?
I heard it. He's got a waiver into the NCAA, and I don't think they've got an answer yet whether he's going to be able to compete this year or not. Regardless if he is or not, he's that extra year is going to help him.
Yeah, he may have to take an academic redshirt, Dave.
Yeah.
That won't be the end of the world if he does.
No, I really like that rule, Norman, with the fact of I know Travion Freshwater out of Northeastern, one of the best players that we've recruited and able to sign in recent memory. It's going to be a tremendous asset on the defensive side of the ball. He did that very thing, Norman, where he got the academic redshirt. My understanding is that kid has really done really well as far as behind the scenes in the classroom and as far as the weight room and on the practice field. He's been a great teammate. So I guess this will be the same thing potentially for Mason.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think. I was unfortunately had to get red shirt because I hurt my knee, but it was the best thing that ever happened when I played. You got an extra year to get your degree because I would never got mine in 4 years. Not with, playing football, going through spring practice is just tough, and then doing student teaching, it'd have been tough to do it in 4 years. So that extra year is going to be good as far as academics and athletics. But I'm looking big things from him. He's a winner. He is a winner, and looking forward to seeing him play.
And that's a very important position. And are there other guys that in Dillon or there in Myrtle Beach area that would be great fits for the Pirates?
Yeah. We just had one of our kids, a receiver at Dillon, just signed it committed to Louisville. He's a receiver. He's a good player. They did a good job recruiting him, and Gunnar Brewer. He kind of fell in love with Gunnar Brewer, and he decided to go there. But I got a couple kids that I coached when I was at Crest. One is Aaron Ramsher, and then Chris Wilson just came over. Yeah, I coached them when I was at Crest. I was at Crest. Yep. They're great people too now. They're super kids. Yep. Good players too.
So if you can get that pipeline going from Dillon to Greenville up the I-95 corridor a little east.
Yeah. When I was
talk about Aaron Ramsor, we certainly he has the ability to provide that linebacker play that we need.
He looked like he's a little puffed up a little bit. I saw a picture of him, like he's gained a little bit of weight. I know he hurt his knee last year. I hate to see that, but I don't know if that's he looked like he got a little thicker.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys have gotten thicker during this COVID stuff and not in the right way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stop talking about me, Kyle, that way.
Myself.
Well, I mean, what else do you do right now? I mean, literally, we got the storm going on. You got a hurricane. You have the COVID-19. I mean, I think that we have more and more places where, unfortunately, financially going out of business, where there's less places to shop. You're shopping online. It seems like we do everything at home now. And then the potential, one thing I'm worried about is that I've got I know you guys have big screens. I don't know about you, Norman. I'm sure you do, but I'm worried about the fact that normally I do that on away games to watch a lot of football on big screen TV behind me. But the fact is, I'm worried about home games for us with East Carolina if we're going to have to stay at home a game or two.
Just play football, baby. If we got to stay at home and watch it, I'll take it at this point. Let's just play football.
Yeah, you're right.
It's definitely a different time. How are things when you were coaching? It's got to be frustrating, Norman. Something you've never, I'm sure, experienced in your coaching career, dealing with this kind of. I know you've had to deal with adversity, with injuries and different things, and discipline issues, whatever, but nothing like this, right?
Oh no, this beats it all. I mean, it's something else, but I'm ready for it to get over with. But hopefully, it will soon, and we can get back to normalcy. But it's been tough. I'm telling you, not seeing your kids, not being able to live with your kids and run, and just being able to see them. We don't have the same type of chance like a college do as far as being able to get them online and stuff like that. Because a lot of our kids don't even have computers. So,
what are you allowed to do right now, Norman? Are you having to wait until August 17th? Are you guys allowed to do anything?
Well, we were going to be able to go out. We were going out today, but we canceled because of the weather. There's a hurricane coming. We thought it was coming in, but it did. It's coming in. It's going to get to us tomorrow. But we're going to. Right now, you can have like a 15 in a group. You can have a ball. You can't come together and have like a team session or anything like that. But I can take my linemen over there and work them out and do different type of things. And the quarterback receivers can do their thing and running backs. But you have to break up, and it's each field. You can have like 15 at this field. You can have 50. It's got to be 15 in another field. So it's a lot of stuff going on that I'm ready for it to end. Hopefully we can get back to phase 2 and what they call phase 3, and we start back.
Yeah, it's been a lot of frustration. I know that coaches are very good with details, but it's even more details now with COVID, with all this mess that, like you're just talking about, the very fact we were talking about that earlier about East Carolina, maybe what they would have to do with the scrimmage to have, that like different groups in different fields, and one maybe Dowdy Ficklin, one at practice fields. It's going to be crazy to do that. But I guess we're just going to have to, I hate to use the term, especially tonight, ride the storm out. With COVID, it's kind of like a storm that's really hit us really hard for the last 4.5 months, right?
Yes. Yeah, it has been tough.
Yeah, what are your expectations this year as far as if we do have a season? As far as I know Mike Houston's, we're big fans of him on the podcast. What do you think about this year for the Pirates?
Oh, I'm excited. I think we're going to turn the corner and we're going to get better. I still think we got to give them some time because they're going to be young. I mean, I'll bet you up front. And, you know, the game's won up front, and that's where they've been weak at before. I think they got better. I know on the offensive line. They got a great offensive line coach. I've known him for a while, Shankweiler. And I think they've recruited some good defensive linemen, so I think they're going to be better there also. So I'm excited. I think we're going to turn the corner.
You know, with especially when you look at this year, but when you look at 21 with a lot of these younger guys, they're going to be upperclassmen by that point, juniors and seniors. I really believe year 3. I've said it a million times on the podcast, but now for more reasons than what before the youth, but also this COVID-19 thing. You have a defensive. I'm not a man of excuses, but having COVID-19, you have building this culture back up, building the Pirate Nation as far as the Pirate football program, and then having Blake Harrell, defensive coordinator. I mean, there's so many variables that we've had that we don't normally have every year.
Oh yeah, that's got to be tough. You know, not defense.
No spring practice.
No spring practice, and you get a new defensive coordinator, and you know that's a lot putting it in, especially just being able to come in the fall and put it in, or summer and put it in.
And I'm grateful that you said that too. Norman is someone I have to remind myself. We've had 5 straight losing seasons. Not to harp on that, but we need to be patient with a guy that's a winner like Mike Houston. And I know there's some Pirate fans that unfortunately may not because of 5 straight losing seasons, but I really believe that I believe in the coach. I believe what he's doing. And if you look at, speaking of details, I don't know too many coaches more about Mr. Details than Mike Houston.
Oh yeah, I've seen him in action, and I'm impressed. And I just hope that Pirate Nation can, even on the down times, can help us. I mean, that's going to be more to our recruiting, because I mean that's one thing about East Carolina. The fan base has always been great, and people enjoy going to games, and East Carolina fans are just great fans, and just hopefully that through some down times that we stay behind the Pirates, even when we were losing. You know, we need to make sure we stand behind instead of complaining. And, you know, that's the thing that kind of irritates me a lot of times. You see people talking about how bad they were and all that stuff. We need to get behind them because we can make them better, you know, support them.
Well, Kyle, I know that one thing you and I have always talked about is a lot of the things we were not happy with. Those things are gone. And we've got the way that we can you're right, Norman, with One Pirate Nation, the way we can have One Pirate Nation is a lot of the stuff that we were upset about. Why should you still be upset when those things are not there anymore? And you have a great baseball coach. You have a great basketball coach, Joe Dooley, Cliff Godwin. And then with having Mike Houston, the staff that he's put together, Big John Williams, the strength coach, everything is great right now, in my opinion. And yes, it's the climb. It's going to be a long climb to get back to the top of the mountain, but as far as heading in the right direction, it's a lot better than what we had, right, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean it's everything's headed in the right direction. We got the football coach we want, the basketball coach we want. Baseball's always good, so let's just get back to playing some ball games, guys, and everything will be good.
I hope so. It seems like it's been forever. Hockey with Hurricanes, by the way, Kyle, up 2-0 over. They won against the Rangers. At least we have that. We hopefully will continue to have baseball, more players testing positive, which has been crazy. I don't know how I haven't been able to watch the NBA so far, but it's been nice to have some sports, and of course NASCAR. Do you get a chance to watch a lot of sports under normal times, Norman? Or I know you coach a lot, so
yeah, I do. I get a chance in my free time. That's what's been so hard. You know, I've got free time now, and you can't watch sports. You couldn't watch sports, so. But I'm an avid, fan. I mean, I miss East Carolina baseball more than anybody. You know, my son-in-law, who my daughter played at softball at East Carolina, and she married a baseball player from East Carolina. So, I used to watch softball games and go and watch the baseball games, and I miss those. I miss the softball days and going to watch the baseball games. So it's been tough. It's been real tough. And now I'm excited about, the basketball because it seems like he's done a good job recruiting.
Yeah, it's been, it's funny, Norman, that you brought that up. I think that the last year or two is the most I've ever talked. As much as I love basketball and love East Carolina, the most I've ever talked about East Carolina basketball has been under Joe Dooley, and I guess we call it Joe Dooley 2.0. But having Joe Dooley back has been tremendous and all that. And then just I think we do have the best fans. So you're right. Unfortunately, I don't think they don't have obviously single game tickets, but Kyle, they still have season tickets on sale? I haven't heard any more.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe these tickets are on sale. I don't think they're currently pushing it, but I do believe you can still buy them. Yeah, for what it is. Who knows how many games they're going to play or if we're going to play? But yeah, if you want to be able to go to the games, if fans are allowed, get your season tickets.
Because if not, you're not going.
Right.
But Norman,
mine. I ordered mine a long time ago. Yep.
Hey Norman, there's some fans that probably be okay with that because they can party in the tailgate lodge.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Well, Norman, thank you so much for coming on, man. On short notice, we were upset when we got that news earlier, and Bubba mentioned you to bring you on, and that you played with him for a year or so with Tudy, and unfortunately losing him today, but I guess it was yesterday, but certainly sad situation. But definitely, whenever we lose a Pirate in Pirate Nation, it's really hard. But I know that's got to be hard for you, a former teammate and a very special player.
Oh yeah, that's tough. It really has. It was a shock when I saw it, but he was a good one, man. And I enjoy listening to y'all. Y'all do a great job, and keeps me bleeding that purple. So I enjoy listening to y'all, and thank y'all for having me on.
Thank you very much, and definitely good luck. We're praying, we'll keep our fingers crossed for high school football, college football, pro football. It's going to be really weird with football not in the fall. I'm a huge football fan, so especially with our state fair was canceled. I guess it was last week, and so which was obvious. I knew that was going to happen, but it's going to be really weird not to have the fairs and football in the fall. So hopefully we will definitely have football at least. Thank you so much, man. Hope you have a great night, and I'll catch up with you again soon.
I appreciate it, guys.
Have a great night. Take care.
Uh-huh.
All right. That's Norman Quick there. Obviously a great East Carolina player. Appreciate him very much. Kyle, I tell you what, we got to have football, man. I don't know what we have to do, but like I was saying, that it's going to be a really crazy – we live in a crazy time, but I think the biggest thing is mental health issues all across the board. And if we can have sports, I think that would really alleviate a lot of not everything, but I think some of it is definitely where he was. Mike Yam was talking about social, like gatherings, but
normalcy. People want normalcy.
Yeah.
People want something to keep their mind off things, and you got it back with pro sports. But down south, it's all about college sports, and we need college football, and hopefully we'll get it.
Yeah, Bubba, do you have anything before? Well, I thought we were going to have Bubba.
Time to wrap it up.
All right, we'll wrap it up. Kyle, thank you so much, man. Appreciate Norman Quick coming on to talk about the loss of Tootie Robbins, and then one of the great Pirate greats, obviously in All-American and NFL. Appreciate Mike Yam as well for coming on, and thanks for Bubba putting this together. Certainly today, last minute. So appreciate it very much. All right, you've been listening and watching the Sports Objective podcast. Go Pirates. Good night, everybody.